Good Friday morning. See how officials are fighting fires in California.
See why U.S. officials think a new Chinese sub sank.
And discover how a massive cyber attack happened in Pennsylvania.
From Ball State Unified Media, you're waking up with Cardinal Weather, live from the Ball State Weather Center.
Good Friday morning to you. You're waking up with Cardinal Weather. I'm Max Robson.
And I'm Eli Grasham.
On Thursday, the line fire in California was at 83% containment as it's burned in San Bernardino County. The wildfire charred tens of thousands of acres this month after starting in the city of Highland. It sent thousands of people fleeing from their homes in multiple cities. All evacuations have been lifted by Thursday, and officials said the blaze was not threatening any structures.
The Libyan militia leader convicted for his role in the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi was resentenced to 28 years in prison Thursday. The 2012 attack led to the deaths of 4 Americans, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya. Ahmed Abu Khattala was originally sentenced to 22 years in prison following his conviction in 2018. At the time, prosecutors portrayed Khattala as the ringleader of the attacks, but he was acquitted of the murders of the 4 Americans. In 2022, the federal appeals court ruled his original sentence was, quote, unreasonably low and ordered Khattala to be resentenced. Prosecutors were seeking a new sentence of at least 60 years to life. Instead, the judge tacked on 6 more years to the sentence, saying he did not think the crimes for which Khattala was convicted warranted a substantially higher prison term. According to a survey conducted by the Associated Press, only 44% of Americans have a great deal of confidence the vote count will be accurate this November.
But here in Delaware County, the state of Indiana is taking steps to ensure there's no room for inaccuracy. NewsLink Indiana's Eli Grasham has a story.
Here in a hallway in the basement of the Delaware County Courthouse, a fundamental aspect in the security of this November's election is taking place: the testing of the voting machines.
We randomly select 5% of our machines to check and make sure they're programmed properly, that they vote properly, so we can feel assured when we put them into the field that the public is getting, the machines that are properly prepared.
Rick Spangler, the Delaware County Clerk, along with other members of the Delaware County Election Board and many other volunteers, gathered at the courthouse to carry out the test. The test consists of several different phases: making sure that all machines have no previous votes on them, putting in votes for every location and every candidate, and finally checking to see if all machines can properly send those votes to the tabulation computer. Spangler speaks on the importance of this test.
Well, this gives us actual visual proof. We can say the machines are good. We can, the past history proves that the machines are good, but we physically check them prior to every election.
This test is not just limited to the in-person voting that most think of. They also put emphasis into testing mail-in ballots from absentee voters. Steve Shamo, General Manager of Microvote, explains this process.
The second stage of the test was we have to test the mail ballot system, and so we have a test deck that also verifies that every candidate in the election's voting location is active and can receive votes from paper ballots and mail ballots that are sent in from the voters. So those were scanned also. At that point, we had 2 separate vote types that were tested and transferred into the voting system.
Using tests like this, the state hopes that the people of Delaware County and the entire state of Indiana can rest assured knowing that their vote is protected this November. In Muncie, Eli Grasham, NewsLink Indiana.
The Delaware County Election Board hopes this lengthy and precise process helps to ease any worries that voters have regarding vote security.
And Eli, when I woke up this morning, I was really disappointed to see rain coming down. I was not happy.
Neither was I. Walking across campus in my suit, getting all wet, I was not comfortable. But let's see if we're going to get any more comfortable today with Jay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, unfortunately, I don't have the best news for you. But first, we're going to look at our current conditions. 60s across the board throughout our state here. 65 in Muncie, Fort Wayne, and Indianapolis. Our hot spot down in Shelbyville sitting at 69 degrees. Our out the door forecast, if you have not left home yet, what's it going to be like? It's going to be a little chilly and breezy to start the morning. That wind is going to persist, but the temperatures will increase, peaking into the low 70s and then tapering off throughout the evening. As I just mentioned, though, that wind is going to be the main story today. Current winds not quite what they're going to be yet today. 16 in Muncie, 23 in Indianapolis is the hot spot for winds, but those are going to increase significantly throughout the day. And that's going to be one of our headlines. Our top headline is that strong wind that's going to come in later this afternoon. Heavy rain at times, those periods of heavy rain continuing throughout the day, and then those cooler temperatures moving in throughout the rest of the weekend.
Coming up, see why U.S. officials think China lied about their submarine.
That's after your weather. Now,
Two U.S. defense officials say China's newest nuclear-powered submarine sank pierside this spring, and the Chinese Navy tried to cover up the loss. The attack submarine was the first in class of China's new Zhao-class line of vessels under construction at a shipyard near Wuhan. A satellite image from March taken by Maxar Technologies show the sub with its signature X-shaped tail docked at the port. Additional Maxar photos from later in June shows the sub did not return to the pier. A senior defense official said that it's not clear if nuclear fuel had already been loaded onto the submarine or if the vessel was unfueled when it sank.
former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has been disbarred in Washington, D.C. for his efforts to help Donald Trump try to overturn the 2020 election. The move follows ethics proceedings in New York, where Giuliani has also been disbarred. D.C. Bar has a reciprocal relationship with the New York Bar, prompting the district's decision. Giuliani's spokesperson says the D.C. disbarment is a total miscarriage of justice. He's also facing criminal charges linked to election denial efforts in Georgia and Alabama and Arizona. He's pleaded not guilty in both cases. Giuliani is one of many former Trump attorneys who have faced professional disciplinary action for their roles in election subversion schemes. Most of those cases are still ongoing.
Never before seen evidence in the election interference case against former President Donald Trump are now in the hands of a federal court. Special counsel Jack Smith filed the massive brief under seal Thursday. Smith previously received permission to file a brief as long as 180 pages, which is 4 times the normal page length. The filings are expected to include grand jury transcripts and the FBI's notes from interviews with witnesses. District Judge Tanya Chutkan will determine how much of the evidence will the public get to see and when. The filings could provide Americans with the most comprehensive look at the case before November elections. Prosecutors have also indicated to file versions with proposed redactions that could be released to the public quickly. And you know, with everything going on, I know that there's also the hurricane down in Florida that's coming through.
Yeah, it's been rough from what I've been seeing online, but I'd like to know more. Why don't we go to Ian to find out more?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about with this hurricane, or rather tropical storm Helene now. Behind me, you can see it's still carrying very strong winds, 60 mile per hour in a lot of location. It's moving up here into the Ohio Valley, pretty close to home. You're going to start to see more of that rain and strong winds start to move into the Midwest as we head throughout the day. Probably towards Friday evening is where you're going to see the brunt of it. Let's look at these temperatures first, because they're going to be affected by Helene. 65 degrees right now in Muncie, 68 in Atlanta, 55 in Kansas City, a bit warmer on the West Coast, 76 in Las Vegas. Our highs, you're going to see here near where Helene is headed. You're going to see a bit lower temperatures today. High 71 in Cincinnati, 75 in Atlanta. Most of the big weather here on my forecast is going to be driven by Helene. So let's look at what these warnings that are being driven by Helene are. You can see we have this big painting full of colors behind me. Let's break them down together. Here down towards the south in Florida, pink is your small craft advisory. This is a heat advisory from Miami upwards. Here is your general wind advisory. Let's move a little further north because we still have a lot of colors to work through. Here on your red, this is your tropical storm warning. This is where the most relevant areas in terms of those really high rain conditions, strong winds are still experiencing. It's going to start to push further north too. This light green here, this is your flood warning. Active floods can be occurring here. These tiny green lines right here, those are your rivers, your streams that are flooding over right now. A little further north here in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, this orange behind me is the wind warning, and the lighter green, these are your flood advisories. All of these more mountainous areas are seeing a lot more flooding this time of year than what you might typically expect because of Helene pushing so far north since we've had such a strong storm. Let's look at our radar too. Let's see how Helene advances. Right now it is over South and North Carolina. It's going to continue to push towards the north, kind of curve back to the west just a little bit. Precision cast shows a lot of Kentucky and northern Tennessee over towards the west is where you're going to see the majority of that rain. Here in Indiana too, towards Louisville, Evansville, that's where we're going to see the strongest conditions. And as we get into Saturday, it's going to start to weaken a little bit. You're going to see less and less rain, less and less strong winds as the situation gets a lot safer as you're headed out on those roads. Also, with our severe outlook, you can see over here on the East Coast, this red right here is a moderate risk of tornadoes, slight risk moving out further into South and North Carolina. Hurricanes do tend to spin up a lot of tornadoes, and we've seen some of those already if you've seen any footage online. Our temperatures too are looking to be a bit moderated due to Helene. You can see near normal conditions or the probability of near normal conditions is very high here on the East Coast. As we look at these next couple of days, Helene is going to continue to define what we're going to see in terms of conditions, these rains, these strong winds, even here in the Midwest and Muncie.
Yeah, I'm really not looking forward to it, but I know that for us at least, the rain's going to be really helpful with how windy it has been.
100%. I've been worried about temperature because it's been really hot up here for quite a while, and now with the rain and the wind, it's starting to finally cool down to what I expect for this
Thank
season.
you, Eli. Coming up, see how criminals stole health information from Pennsylvania.
That's after your weather now.
Welcome back. The time is 8:14 a.m. and you're taking a live look outside the Foundational Sciences building. The Pennsylvania healthcare system has agreed to pay one of the largest settlements of its kind following a cyber attack. According to the lawsuit, $65 million will be paid to victims after a cybercriminal gang leaked nude photos of cancer patients online. The ransomware attack happened last year in February. It affected the Lehigh Valley Health Network, which comprises of 15 hospitals and healthcare centers in eastern Pennsylvania. However, the cyber attack was only limited to the network supporting one physician's practice in Lackawanna County. The lawsuit was filed by an unspecified amount of patients whose pictures were leaked. A judge must now finalize the settlement. In response to the lawsuit, Lehigh Valley Health Network said in part it will continue to enhance their defenses to prevent incidents in the future.
A new study shows 1 in 3 children worldwide are nearsighted, and that number is expected to increase. That's according to research published in the British Journal of Ophthalmology. Nearsightedness, or myopia, causes distant objects to appear blurry, while closer objects appear clear. Researchers studied more than 5.4 million children and adolescents in 50 countries across 6 continents. They found that over the past 30 years, nearsightedness has increased among that age group from 24% to almost 36%, with a noticeable spike after the pandemic. It's especially prevalent among East Asian children, where children start their formal education at ages 2 or 3, exposing them to close-up reading and screens as toddlers. In Japan specifically, 86% of children are nearsighted. Researchers recommend children limit their screen exposure to help protect their vision and take regular breaks from on-screen reading. They also recommend eye exams to help with early detection.
You know, Eli, with all that, I mean, the one thing that's really helpful to help with the eyes is this rain. I can't look at my phone outside anymore.
I can't see with all my glasses. But you know, Jay probably has more regarding this rain for us.
Thank you, and I do, and that rain is going to continue. Taking a look at our current temperatures, 65s across the board between Indianapolis, Muncie, up to Fort Wayne. Our hot spot is actually going to be down in Shelbyville, where it is a 69-degree temperature, and then 63 up towards Lafayette, a little colder off to the northwest where you get. For our viewing area, focusing on some cities, Portland's up at 69, also another hot spot. Muncie 65, Newcastle 64, and then Richmond is also sitting at around 64 degrees for you. Today, though, 9 a.m. is going to be around 65 degrees. That rain is going to be continuing, and it's going to go all day. I'll get to that in just a second. By noon, up to around 69. We may see a couple peaks into the 70s between noon and 5 p.m. when back down to 69, and then it will slowly start to taper off after that into the overnight. 64 as your low. That rain will finally taper off just a little bit, unfortunately picking up again tomorrow with that wind. Our wind at 15 by tonight. If we can get through today, will be good in terms of wind. Our precision cast temperatures, we can see these 60s tapering off into the low 60s overnight, and then the weekend's just going to be pretty relaxing in the low 70s into the upper 60s, pretty consistent throughout that weekend. But the wind is the main story, and it's going to peak into the 40s, potentially even 50 down in Richmond, 51. It is going to be very windy today. You might want to move anything that can be easily blown outside indoors if you haven't already. Muncie 44 gust, Anderson 45, so the entire area is really going to be seeing those gusty winds before they finally taper off throughout the weekend into the teens, maybe into the 20s, a gust here and there. But if we can get through today, it'll be much calmer into the weekend. And same thing goes for that rain. Heavier rain is going to be today. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit on and off showers. If we can get through today, that is when the worst weather is going to be. A little bit of spotty showers on and off. By tomorrow morning, it actually does taper off before we get some spotty showers throughout the rest of the day. And then Sunday, same thing, much of the same throughout the weekend, light rain on and off. Weekend 73 Saturday and Sunday, pretty similar in terms of those 2 weekend days. Your 7-day forecast, Friday, 72 degrees. That rain continues throughout the weekend into Monday where it lightens up a little bit. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, 70s. Finally, a little bit of a cool off into maybe even some 60s. And that sun does end up returning, which will probably be nice by then as well. My suit got a little bit wet on the way here this morning. That was not expected and not very welcome, I will be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I know my suit was going everywhere, especially with the rain and the wind picking up here soon. I mean, I'm a hat guy, so I'm not happy.
Oh,
with
me
that.
too, me too.
I
I'm gonna lose a
cannot deal
couple.
with it. I wear hats a little too much, and it's a bit tough with the wind.
Thank you, Eli. Coming up, see how Ball State Cardinals are doing on the field.
That's after your weather now.
Welcome back to Waking Up with Cardinal Weather. Ball State football flies out to Harrisonburg, Virginia to take on the James Madison Dukes. The Cards currently sit at 1-2 after a last-minute loss to the Chippewas last week and hope to get back to 500 after a 1:30 p.m. start time at Bridgeforth Stadium. JMU looks to build upon a strong season, currently at 3-0 after 70-50 win over North Carolina. The Cardinals are currently underdogs in the matchup, but will look to come out flying. And with loads of college and professional football coming around this weekend, there may be a lot of new terms and conversation starters you may not know. Lucky for you, I do know, and I'm very willing to share my knowledge. Firstly, Ball State football in this matchup against James Madison. They're currently seen as underdogs. When a team's called an underdog, it simply means they are not projected to win that matchup. For Ball State, our quarterback is Caden Samanza, currently a redshirt freshman. This may sound like Samanza is a freshman, but what it truly means is that he did not play enough games last year as an academic freshman, so he was given an extra year of eligibility. This will allow him to compete at the college level for 5 years. As quarterback, Caden is in charge of the offense, often compared to a point guard in basketball. His job is to make sure the offense runs smoothly as his coaches call the plays. In this matchup against James Madison at 1:30 tomorrow, Caden will be looked upon to match the offensive powerhouse out of Virginia. But something to look at is our defense. If you want to sound smart to your friends, say that if we can stop Barnett, we will be set. Barnett, or Alonzo Barnett III, is James Madison's quarterback. In their win over North Carolina, he threw for 388 yards and 5 touchdowns, while also being the team's leading rusher with 99 yards on the ground. Now remember, with great ball knowledge comes even greater questions. The best way to learn and impress your friends is to do your own research. Study the sports on your free time. Tune into Ball State versus James Madison at 1:30 tomorrow to learn the best. Coming up, we've got your Breaking Down the Science. That's after your weather now. Hong Kong will welcome 2 giant pandas on Thursday. The 5-year-old pair are a gift from neighboring China and will be greeted with an arrival ceremony at Hong Kong International Airport. Anan is a male panda and Kiki is female. They come from a conservation and research center in Chengdu. The local government has been making upgrades to their panda enclosure in anticipation of their arrival.
Got chocolate milk? Friday, September 27th, is National Chocolate Milk Day. The beverage might take you back to elementary school lunch, but it actually originated in the 1600s by an Irish botanist. While living in Jamaica, he was introduced to a local drink made of chocolate and water. He found it too bitter and decided to add milk for taste. The new drink was a hit. The botanist then brought his discovery back to Europe and touted its health benefits. Chocolate milk does have several nutrients, including calcium, protein, and vitamin D. But we also love it because it's delicious. So celebrate Wednesday with a nice cold glass.
And you know, Eli, with all this heavy wind and rain going around, there's a lot of new terms that I haven't really been able to understand in the weather community.
Yes, definitely. With all this strange weather, I really don't understand. But I think I know who does understand. I think Rachel is breaking down the science.
Recall September 22nd, 2024, this past Sunday. It was a quiet Sunday evening, probably nothing much going on, nothing really going on. And then boom, the tornado sirens start going off. And everyone's probably like freaking out, not knowing what's going on. But what was really happening was a couple miles away from campus was a landspout. And today I'm going to be breaking down the science with you with what a landspout is versus what a tornado is. So what I like to think of a landspout is as an upside down tornado. It starts from the surface and it slowly starts to move its heat up into the developing thunderstorm. Whereas a tornado, it takes time to actually make a tornado. It essentially develops from a supercell, which takes a lot of ingredients such as humidity, moisture, heat, and condensation, and that all comes together and possibly could potentially develop a tornado. So going back to our land spout, I really want to emphasize that it's dangerous. Though it is dangerous, it's not as dangerous as a tornado. A land spout, typically its high winds are usually 100 miles per hour, whereas this land spout that we saw in Yorktown, it was about 60, 65 miles per hour, a bit weaker than what we're typically used to seeing. I also want to emphasize that it's also related to the dust devil, which is out west. We typically see dust devils out west, typically in the desert. And it's also pretty related to the water spout. Land spout, water spout, the name resembles the name. With a water spout, you typically see those in the ocean or within the lakes. So I mentioned that we saw this land spout, just a couple miles from campus in Yorktown. It actually produced an EF0 tornado land spout, which didn't really do much damage. It only really destroyed a barn. But then later, we saw up north, we saw two tornadoes that were formed in Jay County, where they destroyed Portland High School and did a lot more damage than what the land spout did, which we can tell like damage-wise based off the Fujita scale. But what we saw with the tornado was that we saw that the tornado did abruptly more damage than what we saw with the land spout. And that's basically what I really want to emphasize is be weather aware of both of these because they're both essentially dangerous. You don't really want to get close to either one of these, but they're both pretty dangerous, and just stay weather aware. Back to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Now let's see what Jay has with local weather to stay even more weather aware.
Thank you. So taking a look at our 7-day forecast here, what we can see is 70s into the weekend, low 70s. That rain and wind is going to continue. The wind is going to taper off a little bit into the weekend, but that rain will continue all the way through Monday, where we have those mid 70s returning, maybe even upper 70s by Tuesday when finally that rain tapers off a little bit. And then Wednesday, Thursday is when you finally get that sun returning full time and maybe a little bit of cooler temperatures and including those cooler lows.
That's all for Cardinal Weather this Friday morning. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your Friday and a fantastic weekend.